Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining us for this, our first pre-arrival orientation webinar of 2024. My name is Jamani Dunn, and I am the Assistant Registrar within the Admissions and International Office here at the University of the West Indies Mona campus, and I'll be serving as the host for this webinar. And I just wanted to start by first congratulating you all on being offered a place to study here at the University of the West Indies, Mona. Now, the University of the West Indies is a very special place. It is the Caribbean's premier higher education institution and is internationally ranked as one of the best universities in the world. And this university has produced many of the regions and the globe's leaders and thinkers. And by being accepted to study here, it indicates that you're among your country's best and brightest. I'd also like to salute you for choosing to study abroad. By doing so, you've demonstrated that you have the willingness to step outside of your comfort zone and push yourself that much further to achieve excellence and realize your dreams. Now, I have no doubt that this experience will be one of the most meaningful and rewarding in your life. However, of course, along this journey, you will confront your fair share of challenges and obstacles. How well you handle your stay abroad and the challenges that may arise will depend a great deal on how well, you've prepared for your journey. And of course, this is where we come in. So we're here to help you. You're not alone. This orientation program, including this webinar, is designed to help you and guide you in preparing for all that lies ahead. So this is one in a series that we'll be hosting over the next few weeks. Each one will explore a different topic that is relevant to the regional and international student experience. And the orientation program will, of course, culminate in our big in-person orientation program, the Regional and International Student Orientation, on Tuesday, August 20, here at the University of the West Indies Mona campus. So we definitely look forward to seeing you then. But before I go further, I just want to pause to introduce some of my colleagues who I'm joined with. So I'll just ask each of them to just briefly introduce themselves, starting with Miss Hermin Terrell.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Hermin Terrell, and I'm the Senior Administrative Assistant in the Admissions and International Office. Welcome to you all, and I look forward to engaging with you when you arrive on campus. I've already started engaging with some persons who have issues, whether it be for immigration or whatever. But we look forward to welcoming you to the University of the West Indies, and congratulations on your acceptance to the premier institution in the Caribbean.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ms. Terrell. All right. Tony Ann Reed, you want to just quickly
Hi,
introduce
good
yourself?
morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tony Ann Reed, and I'm the Student Exchange Coordinator within the International Office. Welcome, and I hope today's meeting will be very beneficial to you guys.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tony Ann. And Vikisha Allen. Vikisha?
Good morning, everyone. So excited for your new journey with you, and we'll be here to guide you. My name is Vikisha Allen, and I'm the Medical Elective Coordinator here in the International Student Office.
Excellent. All right. So this gives you a taste of the team that is here to support you while you're here with us at the University of the West Indies. So if you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out. Right, so we also have with us two extra special guests. So we're joined by Mr. Athol Hamilton from Student Services and Development Office. You want to say a quick hello, Mr. Hamilton?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. As you heard, my name is Athol Hamilton, and I serve as the Student Services and Development Manager for Taylor Hall on the Mona campus here. However, in this context, I represent the Office of Student Services and Development, which includes all halls of residence on the Mona campus. Welcome to UWI, and I look forward to sharing with you.
Excellent. Fantastic, Mr. Hamilton. Thank you so much for joining us. And I believe we're also joined by Linda Samba, who is one of our recent international students. Linda, are you on? Can you just say a quick hello?
Yeah, hi. I don't know if you can see me.
We can certainly hear you. Ah, there you are. Great to see you.
Yeah. Yeah, good to see you too. So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Linda Samba. I have been doing an exchange during the last year. So I'm an exchange student, a past exchange student, because my year in Jamaica is done for now 2 months. And yeah, that's it.
All right. Thank you so much, Linda. Really glad that you were able to attend. And so we'll be hearing from Mr. Hamilton and Linda Samba a bit later. Now, that being said, we turn our attention to the topic of today's webinar, which is pre-arrival preparation, immigration, accommodation, and next steps. And we know you have a lot of questions and thoughts, and so we'll hopefully be able to go through much of that today. Now, we've broken today's proceedings into 3 main segments. So in segment 1, we'll have a discussion on accommodation, and you'll get to ask any of those burning questions that you might have and explore any issues there. In segment 2, we'll have a presentation on immigration and then some additional guidance that will help you to prepare for your travel to Jamaica. And in segment 3, we will hear from Linda, our international student, and she will share a bit more about her perspective on life here at Mona and maybe share some useful tips that will help you in settling in. So of course we want to hear from you. That's a vital part of what we're doing here. So at the end of each of the sections, we'll have a little bit of time just to take a few of your questions. So now we'll move into the first official segment of our webinar, which deals with accommodation. So I'd like to welcome Athol Hamilton to join me in this discussion, just to look at the halls of residence, some of the policies and procedures that govern life on Hall at University. So how are you doing, Mr. Hamilton? Thank you again for joining.
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here sharing with our students.
Excellent. Thank you. Right. So to start, tell us a little bit about the halls of residence on the University of the West Indies Mona campus. For example, how many halls do we have? What's the approximate capacity of the on-campus accommodation?
Right. So we are able to house just over 5,000 students on the Mona campus. We have about 11 halls of residence, one of which is exclusively for graduate students. So if you are an undergraduate, you really should not be applying to Marlene Hamilton Hall. You're not going to be priority there. And we have halls that are primarily co-ed, but there's one undergraduate hall, Chancellor Hall, that is all male, and one that is all female, Mary C. Cole Hall. So there's a range of housing options, and there is also a range in price and design as well.
All right, fantastic. Now, in terms of the application process, now I hope that everyone here has already done so, but how do students go about applying for on-campus accommodation? Like, what is the application process like?
Right, so the students apply online. On the UWI homepage, there's a section that deals with housing, and I really would encourage the students to look at the offering in terms of the type of accommodation as well as the cost, so that they would select one that suits their budget. So once you fill out the online form and click submit, then that application comes to us, and the students would receive an email confirmation basically stating that the application has been successfully submitted.
Okay, fantastic. Now, say I'm an international student and I've applied for accommodation on campus, but I've not yet heard back. What should I do?
Right. So you can follow up by sending a quick email to student housing, STUDENTING, student housing at uwimona.edu.jm. I'll try to drop that in the chat when I get a minute. And in my office, we'll be able to follow up on the status of your housing application, or to redirect it to another hall that may be able to accommodate you. So for those students who have applied, have not yet settled their living arrangements, I would encourage you to send us an email and we'll be able to follow up on your behalf.
Okay, well, fantastic. So what happens if a student's application to live on hall is rejected? What should they do?
Well, ideally, we try to place all of our regional and international students who wish to live on campus. That's the aim, because we recommend at least for especially if they're staying for more than 1 year, for their first year, that they stay on campus until they are fully acclimatized. So I think we are able to satisfy most of our regional and international students who really wish to live on campus. We may not be able to get you the accommodation in the hall of preference, but we try to accommodate all of our students. And as I said before, if there's anyone here who has not yet settled that, you can reach out to me through the student housing, and we will try to ensure that there is at least an offer that you can take up.
Okay, thank you. Now, I know that, many students are in the process of making plans to arrive in Jamaica. Now, what's the official move-in date for regional and international students? Like, so when should they be really planning to arrive in Jamaica?
All right, that's a great question. And we are a little bit flexible with that, with our regional and international students who are obviously coming from outside of Jamaica, simply because we know the challenges with scheduling a flight and so on. So ideally, the students want to be here before the orientation session for regional and international students. So anywhere from about the 15th, 16th of August onwards would be good. If your circumstance dictate that you must arrive before that date, then again, I suggest you send us an email informing us when you're coming so that appropriate arrangements can be made for you. But the good news is that we are flexible with our students arriving from outside of Jamaica because we are aware that it is not always easy to schedule travel across the world.
Yeah, and I'm sure that is definitely appreciated.
Yes.
Now, what additional support is there, for newly arriving regional and international students, moving in and settling in? What can they anticipate?
Right. So through the Office of Student Services and Development, we have made arrangements to have airport pickups that would have been communicated to the students in their official offer letter. It is important that the students click, I think there's a link in the letter that they would schedule or inform us of their arrival date and time. And it is always good to email. So the students coming into my hall, for instance, if you email your flight itinerary to the hall manager, that is also another layer to ensure that there is pickup. Beyond the date in your letter, which I think is about the end of August, that is when the airport shuttle ends. And so if students are arriving outside of those dates, then they would not be able to benefit from that. What we recommend, though, is that if you're coming outside of the airport pickup period, we recommend that you use one of the approved taxi services to the campus. There is usually a dispatcher there, and you can take one of the JUTA buses. But if you communicate with us via email, we will help to guide that process in terms of your arrival and pickup outside of the set dates.
Certainly. Are there any other additional guidelines that students need to observe before moving in?
Right. So we would have indicated the payment, the cost for the housing, and the payment arrangements. Ideally, students are required by policy to pay before they arrive. If you are having challenges paying with your credit card or whatnot, again, communication is important to us, and we will allow the students to arrive on campus, get access to their room, and settle in for a day or two. Many of them would want to open bank accounts and whatnot. We help to facilitate that process, in terms of filling out the requisite reference forms and whatnot. And we have a number of banks on campus that the students can open their bank account and do their banking without having to go off campus. So that's important. There is usually support that the halls provide when the students arrive and check into hall, in getting settled, in acquiring important items that you may need. So there might be some basic shopping that you need to do. You can't travel with every single thing that you're gonna need when you're in. We have staff in the hall, so each hall is staffed by a hall manager, at least one administrative support, facilities staff, and also resident advisors who will help with the settling in process. So there's always somebody that you can reach out to once you get here and settle in your hall, in terms of navigating your way around campus and going off campus to get items that may not be readily available on campus. And generally, I would say we try to, in each hall, our residents live as a community. And so there is usually very good camaraderie and support among our students. And we look forward to welcoming new ones.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. It's a really warm and accommodating environment. And so students can definitely anticipate that. In terms of policy though, say I'm a student and I'm applying for a double occupancy room, can I choose who I live with, or can I swap, room assignments later on? Is there scope for that?
So we tend to, students who are living in double room, we tend to pair the students based on certain information that they would have provided. So for instance, I would room students based on age and their course of study. That I find to be very helpful, because their schedule would be similar. And so they are studying around about the same time, doing exams, so on and so forth. If you have a preference, it's okay to ask. Keep in mind as well that some of the way we do things would have been guided by our experiences over the years. And so we know generally what works and what doesn't work. There is a hall license agreement. We loosely call it a room contract, that students are required to sign on arrival. And what I try to do is to send that ahead of time to the students, so that they can read through it to understand the terms and conditions of the housing accommodation that is provided. So when you come, you basically sign. So for those students who have already received that document, read through it carefully. If you have questions, you can always send us an email to query anything. And that basically sets out broadly the terms and conditions of the housing. Quickly, I think it's important that for students who are staying or who intend to study for more than 1 year, it's important, even at this stage, that they understand that housing is granted for 1 year in the first instance. So during your first year, in semester 2, during the month of March, is when students who intend to live for the next academic year should go online and apply. So you're not granted housing for the duration of your academic program if it is more than 1 year, and you have to reapply each year for housing.
Okay, interesting. Right, so you mentioned cost, and just pivoting to that area, where would students find information on all the costs associated with living on hall? Would that be part of the agreement that you mentioned? How would they, know exactly how much they need to pay?
Right, so 2 things I would say on that. Before they apply, I suggest that they look online to see the cost of each hall because there's a range of cost. I also should point out that we have private partners that operate 3 halls of residence on the Mona campus. So Irving Hall, Georgia Lane Hall, and Leslie Robinson Hall are all operated under 138 student living. They have their own pricing mechanism. And when you pay your fees in these 3 halls, you are paying directly to the operators, 138 student living. So you have to pay careful attention to the payment information that they would send you in their letter of acceptance, so that those accommodation fees are not paid to you. The other halls, for those students who are living in UWI owned halls, you could pay all the fees one time and then you apportion the amount that is to go to your hall accommodation separate from your tuition fees. Those are important pointers that I think the students need to pay attention to. But it's very important that they do not pay the hall fee intended to go to Irving, Georgia Lane, or Leslie Robinson. Those 3 halls operated privately. Those fees are not to be paid to your UWI
Okay.
information.
So 138 is separate.
Right,
Understood.
and they do their own billing and collection.
Okay, fantastic. I know you said there's a bit of a grace period that some international students would benefit from in terms of when they need to pay a fee, but in terms of late payments and some of the penalties and restrictions there, you care to share a little bit more about those?
Right, so for students who are arriving in time in mid-August, I would strongly suggest there are payment deadlines. And again, I saw that communication coming out yesterday. I can share that with students, but definitely you should complete all your payments before the 1st of September, I would say. So if you are arriving around about the 16th, 17th, or 18th of August, that would give you sufficient time to set up your bank accounts and get your payment house in order. Now, if there are specific challenges, because the university also has an installment plan arrangement where students can pay their fees, both housing and tuition, on a monthly basis. And I have that information that students who wish to make their payments monthly, we send that to them, and it basically guides them as to how to set up that arrangement at the university.
All right, interesting. So okay, are there any costs or fees that are associated with accommodation outside of the general rental fee that students should really be budgeting for? So, things like, laundry or internet or any utilities, anything like that they need to be having on their radar in terms of budgeting?
Right. So most halls, the student committee would have prepared a package for the students, a welcome package, which would include a hall shirt and 1 or 2 other promotional items that the students may use that vary from hall to hall, and the students would be written to separately by the hall chairman, setting out what those costs are. Those are usually optional, although we encourage the students to purchase at least a hall shirt, because that will help to identify you. And there are lots of activities, and hall pride is a big thing on Mona campus, so students always want to wear their hall colors. In terms of laundry, yes, the halls have washing and drying facilities for students who do not want to wash by hand. Those rates vary. Well, there are 2 sets of rates. One, privately run halls have 1 set of rate. UWI run halls have their own rate. So you would need 1 token to wash a load and another token to dry. But if you want to wash by hand as well, that is also available to you. Those would be the internet. There's no additional charge that is covered by the housing fee that you pay And in most places, you can connect to Wi-Fi.
All right. So I know we're talking generally about some of the amenities and so on. So as students prepare to travel, what essential items should they understand that the hall will be providing versus things that they either would need to bring with them or acquire, once they arrive?
All right, great. So the students get in all halls a furnished room. And in some halls, there's a small refrigerator, a small cooler in the 138 run halls. In the other halls, students get a fully furnished room, and there is usually a common living room sort of area, as well as kitchen facilities that would be equipped with stoves, fridges, freezers, microwave ovens. So the students would not need to bring any of those things. Those are provided on the facilities. So you are really bringing your own personal items. You should not bring a hot plate or a microwave oven. That's definitely a no-no, right? Those things are provided. And we spoke about the laundry facilities as well. That's in place. So your room, there is no, I am responding to a question.
Right, you see the questions.
So there is no AC in the room. No.
Right. Right. What about things like bed linen and those sort of things? Are those things that you should be planning to bring, or would those things be available on hall?
Right. So you have to bring your own bed linen, your own pots and pans. If you want to bring a small kettle that you plug in to warm up water or whatnot, yes, that is recommended. If you have medication that you take, then definitely you want to walk with a supply of that to keep you for a month or so until you can refill. If you play sports and you want to bring sport gear or whatnot, that is also advisable. You can bring a fan or purchase a fan. I think it's probably more cost effective to purchase a fan when you arrive. For students who live in halls that have communal spaces, so the kitchen, yes, there's a kitchen for each group, each block, each cluster, each floor, depending on what the design of your hall is. And students typically prepare their own meals. Maybe during the orientation period, a lot of students would probably be eating on campus. A small toaster is allowed, but if you are in doubt or if you want to procure something, you speak with your hall manager or the facilities person before you do that. So all the items that you would need to live in terms of appliances in a kitchen would be provided, save and except for a kettle. That's something personal and you may want to procure that. Or if you could just heat up your water.
Okay, noted. I know typically we would have like a list of items that students would need to consider.
Yes, there's a list of suggested items that maybe I could share with you at the end of this call, and you could share that with the students generally.
Sure, certainly.
Keep in mind that list is just a suggested list, but these are typically the type of things. If you are traveling with your bed linen, I should say the size linen is a twin bed. That's what we have. So if you're purchasing your linen, then you should purchase for a twin size bed.
Twin bed. Okay.
Yes.
Very informative. So are there any restrictions or specific guidelines around things like cooking, laundry, or some of the other facilities within the halls?
I would say in terms of the laundry, it's the basic care and use of the facility. Most halls would have a laundry attendant who's usually a student working part-time to assist with that. you know, those things are, each area would have the basic guidelines in terms of use and care of those facilities that are there.
Okay, noted, noted. Now, you mentioned that there is graduate accommodation. And I know some of the students who will be joining, or graduate students may be traveling with their families. Are there any provisions for families within the hall set up on campus?
Right, that's a great question. Short answer is no. If there is no family housing that we have available at this time. However, if a parent or parents are traveling with you to get you settled, we've had that. What we do, we recommend and we refer them to 138. Our partners tend to have available housing during orientation for family that they could book. So if that is happening and you have a family member traveling with you, you can email us and we'll send you the contact for 138 if the person wishes to stay on campus. But there are other facilities in and around the university campus that they could book in a hotel or an Airbnb that they could find. But being on campus is great because you can walk to basically all the orientation sessions and eating places and whatnot.
Right, indeed, indeed. Now, just looking at the whole matter of some safety and regulations, I know, we may have some parents on, and there's always that concern. What can you speak about in terms of the security and safety measures that are in place at the halls of residence and some of the surrounding areas?
Right, that's a very good question. On the Mona campus, there are 3 levels of security personnel. There is the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, and they have a police post on the campus. There is our privately contracted security firm, King Alarm Guards, and they are easily identifiable in their uniform. And there is also campus police officers. And so these 3 levels of security personnel work together to ensure that we keep students and staff and visitors to the campus safe. I think we have done a reasonably good job at that. The halls of residence all have 24-hour security guards at entry and exit points to the campus, and in some instances to the buildings that the students would live on campus. What I would say to our students is that security is a partnership. Our security provider basically have a role to play, but all of us, students and staff, also have an important role to play in our own security. And I give you an example. I always encourage students that once you're leaving your room, to keep your room locked at all times. Once you are away, don't leave your key under your mat or above the door. Somebody may be watching you and try to access. So there are basic things that I think that both students and staff can do to help to keep each one of us safe and to basically adhere to the security guidelines. It is a requirement to wear your ID card at all times so that the security personnel can identify you and grant you the appropriate access with relative ease, and to comply with the requests from guards to present your ID as is required when you're accessing different spaces on campus. There is also regular patrol that take place on the campus. A lot of students and staff and even visitors to the campus walk or jog on campus in the mornings or in the evening. And so you will see patrol cars and guards on campus. And we just ask that you comply with that basic request of wearing your ID card so that you can be distinguished between someone who isn't a student.
Right. Thank you very much. And it's good to very reassuring to hear that there are many layers of security
And
and safety.
if I may just respond to this
Sure.
quick question I saw pop up. If you're in a double room, each occupant of the room will have his or her own key. So you are not sharing a key with your roommate. You will have your own key.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Right. So in terms of some of the rules and regulations regarding guests and quiet hours and communal spaces, is there anything you want to share with the students on those matters?
Yes, for sure. So there are visiting hours on campus, and we ask that our students abide by that. It's set out in the room contract, but visiting hours run, I think, from 7 a.m., either 7 or 8 a.m. in the morning until 1 a.m. at night. So that's a very wide number of hours that you can have visitors coming to you in your hall of residence. Keep in mind, however, that right that you have to have your visitor goes along with some responsibilities. And so that you are responsible for the conduct of your visitor while he or she is in the hall of residence. You are to sign in and receive your visitor. So if I come to look for John Brown, I am to call John Brown, and John Brown comes to the security post and sign me in, accepts me as a visitor. Do not expect the security to send the person to you, because we don't know if you want to see that visitor in that moment. And so if you are not there, the person is not going to be granted access to the hall. Overnight guests are not allowed in the UWI owned halls. I think there's an arrangement in the privately run halls where the visitee or the visitor could pay an additional cost and be accommodated for the night. But that's the arrangement as it relates to visitors.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Hamilton. I know the students may have a few lingering questions, and I've seen a few in the chat, and you've been kind enough to respond to a few of them ahead of time. But this segment now is really to go through some of those. Vikisha Allen is on hand to assist with those questions. So Vikisha, you want to jump into some of these questions?
Sure, no problem. Okay, let me see.
I see one here about a shuttle. There's a shuttle and schedule on campus for classes.
Yeah, we hope to resume our campus shuttle for the start of the semester. That shuttle is run by the OSSD, and the shuttle will be made available to students for the start of the year.
Fantastic.
Okay.
That person asking a question about Marilyn Hamilton, if you forward that email to the student housing, we'll follow up for you and try to get you a response.
Right. Sorry, just before you go, Vikisha, on the whole question of items to be brought and so on, we do actually have a shopping trip that is right after the orientation session, the day after our in-person orientation session on August 20. And that will be an opportunity for you to visit a nearby supermarket or store where you can get a host of items, some of the bulkier ones that maybe it'd be difficult for you to travel with. So you can also keep that in mind in terms of as you make your preparations, that there will be that opportunity. There, of course, is a cost associated with that activity, and we'll share the relevant details on that as we move forward in the orientation program. But you can look out for that and have that as one of the things that you can bank on for the orientation period. Vikisha, any questions that we want to touch on?
Yeah, someone was asking if Mr. Hamilton can provide them with his email address.
I just dropped student housing, and I'll put my own work email in the chat.
Okay, that's greatly appreciated. Right, were there any other, I see one about gym facilities on campus. Did we get to that?
Yes, there are two facilities. The main one is at the Students' Union. I think the fee for that is included in your miscellaneous fees, and students can use that one. And also there's a facility at the Mona as well.
Okay, fantastic. So there are gym facilities available. Are they free for students, or is there a cost associated with those?
The one at the Students' Union is included. The cost for that is already included in the miscellaneous fees. So they present their ID and they can use that.
Excellent, excellent. I see a question here about if you're arriving on the 19th, which I suppose is the day before our orientation session with relatives, would it be recommended to come straight to the campus, or is it okay to go to a hotel / Airbnb walking distance from campus? Any thoughts on that question?
Could you repeat that question? Sorry.
Right, so Sheridan is asking, she's arriving on the 19th with relatives.
Yes.
And is asking if we would be recommending if she would come straight to the campus, meaning taking up residency on campus, or to go to a hotel, I suppose, with her family, or an Airbnb nearby.
Okay, so typically the student who has been granted accommodation would go to the campus on the 19th, because that would be during the period that we're accepting our international and our regional students. She would have to make separate housing arrangements for the family members who are not the students. So whether special arrangements with 138 or at a hotel or an Airbnb, because the hall would not be able to accommodate your family members with you. You see, but if you wish to be in a 138 facility which is on campus, we can connect you with 138 directly so that you make those arrangements.
Okay, noted. I see Cyril's question as well. He's saying, as a special admitted student registered for a single semester, is any accommodation available on campus? Right, so the short answer is yes. So you can reach out to your coordinator, whoever you've been working with within the university, or you can reach out to our office at the Admissions and International Office, and we can assist you in connecting with the accommodation team within the Office of Student Services and Development to secure some accommodation for your semester.
Thank you very much. Do you hear me? Yeah?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Yeah, thank you. Would you have any email address, maybe?
Sure. So I believe the email address that Mr. Hamilton is sharing would be
I
the
just
main
shared
ones.
them in the chat.
How
I
is it?
did earlier, but I sent it to one person and not everyone. So I just,
Perfect. No problem. Right. So you can see those Cyril, those email
Yeah.
addresses. And we can also
Yeah.
share one with a contact here within the Admissions and International Office that you can also copy in on that communication, so we can support you in securing your accommodation.
Thank you very much.
Certainly. Right. Were there any other questions, Vikisha, that were burning or urgent, or students, if you want to raise your hand, if there was a question that you had?
and I see one, the shuttle bus is also accessible to commuting students. So yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, so if there are no further questions, it's need now to thank Mr. Hamilton for his time. This is a very informative segment. I know it's an area that students would have a lot of questions about. So thank you for sharing all of this information. It's been a huge help. I know you may need to leave us at this stage, so
Yes.
we definitely thank you again.
Thank you so much. I see a question from Micheline Wong. Usually we try to turn around in 2 weeks, but if you send me an email with your specific call and the issue you're having, I can follow up directly.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you so much,
Certainly. And I see
everyone.
another question here about the moving date of August 15. That should be fine, right? That period of time?
Yes, that's fine. Yeah.
Right. So as best as possible, if you can arrive the week of or before our orientation session, I think you'll be in good stead. And that's on August 20. So if you arrive
Right.
in advance of that, you should be good.
The
So
most
thank you.
important thing there, I want to emphasize,
Sure.
please send us ahead of time your arrival date so we can make arrangements for you.
Yes, indeed, that's critical. So thank you again, Mr. Hamilton. Really and truly appreciate it as
everyone.
always. All right, you take care. And thank you, Vikisha, for your assistance with the questions. Right, so the next segment will look into the matter of immigration, another key topic that I know you're all keen to
have a
find
question.
information about. Sorry,
I
Mohammed?
have a question. Yes.
It's a question about accommodation.
Yes, it's about the accommodation.
Okay.
I don't know
all
whether
right.
I can
I'm not sure
change
if
my home.
Mr. Hamilton has left, but yeah, you can share your question, and then if anything,
is
we
it
can connect you with Mr. Hamilton after.
Okay. The question is is it possible
Yes,
to change
please.
the hall? Is it possible?
Is it possible to change your hall? Right. So I think Mr. Hamilton
Yes.
may have left. My understanding that there's a process for that you can get more information on. He'll be the best placed person to share that.
Okay.
But usually that is for subsequent years. But of course, there's no guarantee that will be possible. All right, so you can keep that in mind. But thanks for your
All
question.
right.
All right, so moving on to our next segment, which deals with immigration. And so I'll invite Ms. Hermin Terrell to just share a brief presentation with you on the topic, and then we'll hear a few words of guidance from Tony and Reed. Ms. Terrell, over to you.
Okay, hi everyone. We're just gonna look at some of the things that will be required for as you make your preparations for coming to Jamaica. Now, first and foremost, I ask that you check your passport to ensure that it's valid. It is always surprising when we notice that students come and their passports are expiring soon. So please ensure that you have a look at your passport, check to see when it will expire, and you can also speak with your local passport authority to find out if there is anything, like if your passport should be valid for at least 6 months, or else you won't be able to, you will come in the country, but the extension of stay, you will have an issue at that point. So if you need to check with your local passport authority, just to ensure that if you can renew the passport before you come to Jamaica. So that is very important. Another thing, I'm just going to be speaking about some of the things that you will need to do prior to coming to Jamaica as it relates to your travel requirement, your visa requirements. Now, as it relates to visa or students traveling from outside of CARICOM, and I want to point out that we are talking to passport holders. So dependent, you might be from Trinidad. However, you'll be traveling on a passport from the USA. The requirements would be different. The requirements that we're giving is dependent on the type of passport that you'll be traveling on. So you are a national of a country, however, you're traveling on a different sort of passport, you need to adhere to the requirements that pertains to the passport that you'll be traveling on. Now, for students traveling from outside of CARICOM, and you will need a passport, you will need a visa dependent on the type of passport you're traveling on. We ask that you check with the nearest Jamaican consul to see to acquire this visa. It's very important, those persons who will require a visa, and if you are coming as a student, the requirement for a visa is different than if you're coming as a visitor, as a tourist. You'll be coming to Jamaica for studies, so you'll be treated as a student. So the requirement would be a little different for the visa that will be required. So we're talking about your passport. You make sure you ensure that your passport is valid, and it should be valid for at least 6 months. Your acceptance letter, you will need to have it, either the hard copy or a soft copy. You have it prepared to show if you will need it to, if you're going to apply for a visa, and you will also need it to show at the port of entry. Now, the entry visa, if it is required, you will apply for this at the Jamaican High Commission or Council that is closest to you. So you will need to do your research, because some of the times the visa application, it might take a little time. So you will need to begin that process as early as possible. Now, if you require a visa and you do not get that visa prior to coming to Jamaica, at the port of entry, you will be required to pay for the visa at that time, and it would cost a whole lot more. So please ensure that if you require a visa for coming to Jamaica, that you apply for it and you have that visa stamped in your passport, so that when you get to Jamaica, you won't have any problems. Now, we will give you the website where you can, for our passport immigration and the citizenship agency, where you can check for further details. Now, the documents that will be required, I spoke a little bit about your passport. You ensure you look at your passport, ensure that it's valid, and it should be valid for at least 6 months, at least 6 months. If it's valid for 2 or 3 months, that means you need to go and change your passport, renew your passport before coming to Jamaica. So it's very important you have a quick look at your passports just to ensure that it will be valid for travels to Jamaica. No, your acceptance letter, I just said that you'll need your acceptance letter for those persons who require a visa to come to Jamaica. Your acceptance letter is one of the documents that you will need to submit to the Jamaican High Commission or Consul or Embassy for the processing of your entry visa. And you will also need to have that either in hard copy or soft copy to show to the Jamaican Immigration Office upon arrival in Jamaica. Now, the entry visa, this is a stamp that is placed in your passport, and it is issued by the Jamaican mission or overseas mission. So it will be in your passport. It will have certain information. It's advisable that you have a look at it and you are comfortable with the information that is placed on the visa, and any doubts you have, you'll have that cleared up with the office before you come to Jamaica. Now, some of the documents that would be required for your, if you're going to apply for a visa, you need to ensure that you have your passport, and you'll need a return air ticket and any other document that the Jamaican mission would require. All right, so you ensure that you have those items. Upon arrival in Jamaica, you will, or at the airport, checking in to come to Jamaica, you will have to have a return ticket. So you ensure that you have an open ticket. The open ticket is normally valid for 1 year. So you must have evidence that you're going to return to your country. This is a requirement at the initial stages. So you ensure that you have that. You also, just to run down a couple of the things that you will need if you require a visa, you must have your entry visa stamped in your passport. And also we have this new requirements, relatively new, that you complete the online customs C5 form. Now we will give you the link for this form and you complete, there is no charge. So if you go on the website and you see you're trying to complete this customs C5 form and you see that you're being charged, you know that you're on the wrong site. There is absolutely no cost for you to complete this form. So you complete the online C5 form prior to leaving your country. And we ask that you try and complete that within 24 hours before your travels, because you will need this information. After completing, you'll be sent an email with some information that you will need to present to the local immigration office at the port of entry when you arrive in Jamaica. Just an important note, travelers without a valid travel document or you have not obtained the required entry visa, you will encounter issues at the port of entry. So please ensure that you have all the required documents with you so that you would be able to enter Jamaica without any issue. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the extension of stay, because students, especially if you know of other nationals from your country who would have studied in Jamaica, they will tell you about the extension of stay. Now, the extension of stay is the permit that will be granted to our students, allowing them to stay in Jamaica as a student for the period of your studies. Now, you need to pay, when you arrive at the port of entry, you'll be issued the landing stamp. Now, this is what the landing stamp looks like. So you please look at this stamp when you arrive in Jamaica. This is what the immigration officers will issue. And you'll pay attention to the landed until date. This is very important because your extension of stay has to be done before this date expires. So you'll be, 2 dates will be on your landed until stamp. One will be the date when you arrive, and the other one will be how long you'll be landed in the country. Now, initially, you'll be landed as a visitor. And this can be anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 months, 4 to 6 months. So you ensure that this date, you have to do the extension of stay before the landed until date expires. Now, just go through again your passport data page. The extension of stay will be granted for your period of studies or up to the validity date of your passport. Now, let's say your studies, Cyril, you'll be here for 1 semester. All right, I'm correct. You had indicated that you'll be here for 1 semester. Now your extension will be granted for up to the end. They normally give you a little extra time, but you'll be granted up to the end of the semester that you'll be here for. They'll give you a little extra time. They normally give a little extra time. So please bear that in mind. Your extension of stay will be granted. It's normally granted for the duration of your program. So if you'll be here in Jamaica for 3 years, the extension will be granted for 3 years. And you get a little extra time. They normally give you two months and 2 additional months on your extension. should you want to remain in Jamaica for a little time.
Okay.
The extension is normally granted, as I said, for the duration of your program. However, you're here for 3 years or 5 years, but your passport expires in a year or 2 years. The extension would be granted up to the validity date of your passport. All right, so you would get the extension for that period, and when you renew your passport, you would have to do a transfer of stamp to your new passport. To transfer the stamp, it comes at an additional cost, and we'll go into cost in a little bit. All right, now the extension of stay is the authorization granted by our local immigration office. And it's a passport immigration and citizenship agency known as PICA. Now you will get familiar with PICA because students will tell you, other students will tell you, I'm going down to PICA, or you need to go to PICA, or have you gone to PICA? So know this terminology. PICA has to do with your extension of stay, and PICA stands for the Passport, Immigration, and Citizenship Agency. And the extension of stay is granted for a specified period of time, which typically extends beyond the regular time granted to visitors. All right, so if the regular visitors come as a tourist or for any other reason, their extension would be different from yours. So your extension would be granted for the duration of your program or up to the validity date of your passport. There's another thing that I want to point out to students. Now, there are some persons that might come and they start in one program. This typically happens to those students who would come and start in science and technology, and then you transfer to medical sciences for the MBBS program. No, your extension would have been granted for your initial program. So you'd be considered for the program and to be granted for science and technology. But let's say in a year or 2 years, you transfer to medicine and you'll be here for a little longer. At the end, when the initial extension expires, you would have to apply for a further extension. And I want students to understand this because in terms of budgeting, you have to budget these, have a line item for these sort of things. So you are aware that if you transfer to another program and you'll be here for a little longer, you would have to do a further extension, which would you would have incur an additional charge. All right, now for the extension of stay processing, there is a cost of 10,000 Jamaican dollars. Now, the cost that you incur for the extension of stay, it's a government of Jamaica charge. This has nothing to do with the University of the West Indies. We can't ask them to lower it. It's a government charge. So you ensure that you have the required sums, and this is 10,000 Jamaican dollars for the processing of the extension of stay. And this amount you will pay to the Passport, Immigration, and Citizenship Agency office. Now, there are some additional charges that will apply to some persons. This won't apply to everyone, and I want to ensure that persons are they understand that some of the fees that we will quote for immigration would not be applicable to you, but students need to be aware. Now, there's a multiple entry visa charge, and this is only applicable to non-Commonwealth nationals and some persons from specific countries. Now, Nigeria, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, British Virgin Islands, and Cayman Islands. You will need these countries. They are Commonwealth countries. However, you need an entry visa, as well as you also need to get a multiple entry visa. Now, this multiple entries, when you come to Jamaica, in the event that you have to leave and return to Jamaica, you don't need to go and apply to a consulate to get a visa to come back in. You must have the multiple entry visa in order for you to return to the island. There's also a registration fee. So for persons who are over 16 years old, and I'm sure everyone here is over 16, and you'll be here, for persons who will be here for more than 6 months, you have to do a registration fee. And for this registration fee, for this application for the registration, you need 2 passport size pictures. So based on where you're from, you are from a non-Commonwealth country, in addition to those persons who are from Nigeria, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, British Virgin Islands, and the Cayman Islands, you will need to do the registration as well. Now, I ask that students listen to this part of the presentation, because this is where I get a lot of tears. And when I get the tears, all I can do is just sympathize. Persons who fail to do after you are here as a student and you fail to regularize your status, you fail to do the extension of stay before the landed until stamp expires, you'd be charged a penalty. And this penalty is 50,000 Jamaican dollars. Please remember this. Please ensure that you do not fall into this trap of not doing the extension of stay before you're landed until stamp expired. What normally happens, there are some students when they come and they see that they get 4 months or 6 months, they're landed for 6 months, they will leave the island and don't do the extension of stay and want to do it when they come back. We advise against this. Please ensure that you do the extension of stay before you leave the island. Now, let me just go back to doing the extension of stay. What are some of the requirements for you? You must be registered. Registration at the University of the West Indies is a 3-pronged process. You select your courses online. You must get the approval from your faculty or your department, and you must pay all your required fees. Now, this is very important. We have students who will want to go and do the processing for the extension of stay, and they come and get their status letter, but the status letter does not say that you are a registered student. The status letter does not say this is to certify that Hermin Tyrrell is a registered student at the University of the West Indies for a particular period. It does not state that. And if that letter does not state that, the immigration office will not be able to process your extension of stay. So I'm saying this, that students, that you are aware of the requirements for immigration. We don't want you to incur any additional cost that, monies that could be used for something else. You have to use it to pay a penalty for the extension of stay because your stamp would have expired. So one of the two key things that I ask that you do, you have a look at your passport to see how long it will be valid for. And if there are any doubts, any questions that you have in your mind, you speak with your local authority, your local passport authority for them to guide you. And 2, when upon arrival in Jamaica and you have gone through our immigration process, you look at your passport to see the date for your landed until stamp, and you make a note and ensure that you do the extension of stay before that date expires, bearing in mind that you must be a fully registered student at the University of the West Indies to ensure that your letter states that you are a registered student so that you can go and do the processing for the extension of stay. And the admissions and international office, we provide the assistance that's needed for the extension of stay process. So you can always come and speak with us and we will provide the relevant guidance. The status letter that will be needed for the extension of stay for undergraduate students, you would get that from the admissions office and the request can be made online. And for our graduate students, you would get your status letter from the Office of Graduate Studies and Research. No, purchase an airline ticket, just to retract. You purchase a round ticket when traveling to Jamaica for study purpose. And you consult with, I know that you can purchase your ticket online, which is fine. Just ensure that you have a return date when you plan to leave. You can also use a travel agent who would be able to provide the necessary guidance. And as I mentioned, travel agent, I want to speak particularly to Mohammed, who is having some issues with finding a route to come to Jamaica. Now, for students who are traveling from further distances to get to Jamaica, you will have to go through different countries. Some persons might be coming from a Commonwealth country. You don't require a visa to come to Jamaica. However, there is no direct route from your country to Jamaica. So you would have to go through other countries that would require a visa. We ask that you pay particular attention to this and you begin your process early, because the processing of the visa for these countries, it normally takes a little time. So you will check the different routes to see which route you can use to get to Jamaica, and you do the necessary application for the visas for those countries. And it's advisable that you could use a travel agent, even though you would incur more costs, but the travel agents are normally well equipped and well versed on finding the different routes. And just for you to note, we have two major airports in Jamaica. We have the Norman Manley International Airport that's located in Kingston, and we have the Donald Sangster International Airport that's located in Montego Bay. Now, the Kingston Airport is relatively close to the campus. You might find on a fair day, it might take anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes to get to the campus. But for Montego Bay, that's a little distance off, likely to take about 3.5 hours for you to get to the campus. So we recommend that if you will be arriving at the airport in Montego Bay, you will have to make alternative arrangements to get to Kingston. There's a Knutsford Express bus service that you can take from the airport in Montego Bay to get to Kingston, and you'll come to the bus depot, and then you'd have to take another transportation to get to the campus. So please, if you will not be coming directly into Kingston, please be aware that if you arrive at the Montego Bay Airport, you'd have to make arrangements for additional travel costs to get to Kingston. Okay, I'm not sure what's happening here. My screen is not moving, but are there any questions? They're not hearing me?
Hello.
Hello?
Can hear you.
Can
Yes,
you
Mr.
hear?
Well, we do have a few questions from our students.
You're hearing me? You're hearing me, Vikisha? You're hearing me over the computer?
Yes, we're hearing you, Mr. L. I think, yeah, do we have any questions?
Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing
Yes,
you.
hearing you, Vikisha.
Okay. All
Right,
right.
so I'm
So one
seeing,
of the few questions someone has asked what date they should book for their return ticket.
All right, no, that is dependent. Normally, the open ticket is for a year. So that normally two students want to return home for Christmas. So it'll be dependent on what? On your plans. If you're going to be going home for Christmas, or you do the year, and at the end of your first year, you'd go home after your final year, your end of year examinations, which would be in May. All right, so it is advisable that you have the information on the academic year, the calendar, the dates when you're booking your tickets. And if you are going to stay for the year and go at the end of the academic year, please ensure that you book your tickets after examinations have ended. Reasons for this: persons at times book a flight on the last day of exams and they have an exam on that day. And then you're going to incur additional costs because you would have to change your ticket. So please ensure the dates for the academic year, they're already on your portal. For other students or exchange and study abroad students, you would get the dates for the academic year on your offer letter. Please, when you're booking your tickets, you book it after the final day for examinations. Do not book your ticket on the final day for exam, because you might very well have an exam on that day.
And also, what about getting a CSME certificate for CARICOM nationals when applying for unconditional landing?
Okay, now that we would have to find out from our immigration office, because you're coming as a student, and if you get the CSME certificate in terms of what will apply to you, we will have to find out that sort of details from our immigration office. So I would ask that person provide us with an email address so that we can Vikisha, if you could just make note of the question so that we can find out from our local immigration office as to what would be the requirements where that is concerned, and we will share the response with the person. Right, I see Lee Blake. You have your hands up?
Can you
Yes,
hear
go
me?
ahead, please.
Yes. Before the slides where you were talking about the penalty of the status, you were talking something about specific countries and having to pay a fee. I missed that what you were talking about. Could you go over that?
Okay. All right. Now there are two additional charges. There's $10,000. That's the cost for the extension of stay. Everyone will pay that. There are additional costs for particular groupings of students. It's not for everyone. There is a multiple entry visa, which would be applicable to non-Commonwealth students, in addition to Nigeria, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, British Virgin Islands, and the Cayman Islands. So if you're traveling on a passport from these areas, you would need to do the multiple entry visa. And this cost, I didn't give you the costing for that. It varies from 500 Jamaican dollars to 2,000 Jamaican dollars. So dependent on where you're from, the cost should be anywhere within that range. There's also the registration fee, which is applicable to the same grouping of persons, non-Commonwealth, in addition to Nigeria, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, British Virgin Islands, and the Cayman Islands. You have to do a registration fee as well. And that's for $2,000. So you do that in your budgeting when you do your line item for immigration. If you fall within these categories, you put on these additional amounts.
Okay, so one more question. The multiple entry visa, would I need that in addition to the regular entry visa, the stamp that you mentioned?
What kind of passport are you traveling on?
Cayman Islands passport.
Yes.
Or would I just need to have the multiple visa entry alone? or do I need both?
No, you need an entry visa. Persons coming from Cayman, you would need, so you will apply for that entry visa at the Jamaican consul. I think, I'm not too sure if they have a Jamaican consul in Cayman, but you can always go on the Passport Immigration and Citizenship Agency PICA website for information on where the embassies, the Jamaican embassies, if there is
Okay,
one
so
there, or but the multiple entry visa, you'll do that after you are registered at UE.
okay, understood.
Mhm.
All right. I see a few more hands up.
Yes.
We have to move pretty quickly through the questions.
All right.
Cyril, I think
Cyril.
your hand was up before. You had a question? Or was it answered
Yeah,
previously?
yeah, thank you. Very few questions. I've been in touch with the embassy for European Union, the Jamaican embassy, asking for visa, and I think it's being processed now. They asked me for an accommodation, but they didn't ask me for a return ticket. I booked one a flight to go, but not a return one. So it's one-way ticket only. So I'm a bit scared now because you're talking about, and you really insist on the fact that we do need a return ticket. So I will ask the question to the embassy
Yes.
to understand the answer, but so far I've understood that it was not a blocking point really to them. The other thing is that you're talking about an extension of stay, but as far as I'm concerned, I think I have asked for a full visa before I actually come to the country, meaning that I should not be extended, but the visa from the very beginning should be on the right, duration.
Okay. Well,
And the
for
last
you,
level, yeah.
For
Yeah.
you, Cyril, if you do not intend to leave Jamaica while you're here for the 4 months, you would have to, you will be going in to do the application for the extension of stay. So you will have to have them assess your case, and they will tell you if you need to do the multiple entry visa.
Okay. The last thing is that I've asked for a visa, and there are multiple things first to study, but I'll be a specially admitted student for a few hours only during the week. The rest of the time I will work as a producer, and I inform the administration, the embassy, that there were two aims really for me being in Jamaica: one, to study; two, to work as producer. I understood it was not a really issue, but can you maybe confirm I'm right when I say so?
You see, Cyril, if you are coming as a student and you start to talk about work, that's going to put some additional, because you would have to have proof. And then they might say to you, you need to do a different sort of application to get a work permit.
Right. Would you be working with Jamaican entities, or would you be just working remotely?
With artists and studios.
Sorry, say again?
I will work with artists and studios in the music business.
Okay, locally in Jamaica.
In Kingston, maybe.
Yeah. I see. Right. That might require you to acquire a work permit.
A work permit.
Right.
Okay.
So, I mean, we don't have clear details on that process because it's a very separate process.
Yeah, I'll take care of it with directly with the embassy, really.
Certainly.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cyril. All right, I see Anya's hand quickly. Anya, you had a question to share?
Hello, good day. I was just asking, if you already purchased a one-way ticket, what would you have to do? Like, go back and like get the return ticket, or is there something that you could do instead?
No, you can still go, depending on how whether you did your ticket online or you did it through a travel agent, you should be able to purchase a ticket to return home.
So you would have to get the return ticket.
Yes.
Okay.
The Jamaican immigration, when you come to immigration, they will require the return ticket. They normally require the return ticket.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, things sometimes vary depending on which immigration agent you get, but the guidance that we're sharing is what has been shared with us. So what we're providing is essentially for your benefit to be on the safe side so you don't run into any challenges. All right, Nathan, I see your hand. Quickly.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I just want to clarify with the one-way ticket as well. So being inside the CARICOM Trinidad, they said they were fine with the one-way ticket. So do we have to organize a one-way ticket, or I mean a return ticket before we reach by the officers in Jamaica? Or would they be able to just apply for the extension of stay and provide a return ticket later?
It's at the port of entry. We, as Mr. Dunn said, we're sharing the information as it was shared by our immigration office. So we were told that students need to have evidence to demonstrate that they intend to return to their country.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so it's
can I clarify one last thing quickly?
Certainly.
You said you need a proof of registration with the university as well when you're applying. That will be provided at on campus, or they have to get an email?
No, that will be provided on campus. Remember, I said the status letter, that part of the processing for the extension of stay is done when you are here registered as a student.
Okay, thank you very much.
And that it must be done before the landed until stamp, that stamp in your passport.
Yes.
You would have to do the extension of stay before that date expires. We're going to be doing our orientation session when you are here in Jamaica. We're going to be doing orientation and we will go over some of these information.
Right, indeed.
Thank you, no
Mr.
problem.
Earl. I see a few quick questions. So someone is asking, do students from CARICOM apply for the extension of stay too?
Yes.
Yeah, short answer is yes.
Extension of stay is applicable to all non-Jamaican students. All right, so we have one person I think out there, and I won't call her name, who has a Jamaican passport, even though it expired. If you are living in another country, you have like dual citizenship, and you have your a valid Jamaican passport, you would not need to do the extension of stay.
Okay. There's a question saying that she's a CARICOM citizen, but is traveling to Jamaica through the United States. Would they require for the US, the requirements for the US, would those apply to her?
Right, you would have to get a transit visa. So if your country requires a visa to go through the United States, you will need to get the transit visa. And all of this information, you should have it online in booking, or you can go through a travel agency just to check. So if your country requires that you have a visa, whether it's going to be a transit visa or a visitor's visa or whatever kind of visa, yes, you will need to get it if you're going through the US.
Indeed. So you, as Mr. Earl said, you need to get the transit visa for the country that you're transiting through. But as a CARICOM citizen, she wouldn't need a visa to enter Jamaica. She wouldn't need to
Jamaica,
get a
no.
port of entry.
No.
All right, that's clear. All right.
Provided, I'll say it again, provided that you're traveling on the relevant passport. Because some persons, they're citizens of a country, you're a national of a particular country, however, you're traveling on a Commonwealth, a non-Commonwealth passport. And that's where you will need to do whatever. So you might be born in Trinidad, however, you intend to travel on a US passport. Once you're traveling on a US passport, you have to abide by the requirement that would be applicable to your US passport.
Right, indeed. All right, so time is against us. I see two hands. Let's just quickly take those two questions. And then we just proceed from there. If we're unable to take your questions at this time, we'll ask just Ms. Terrell if you can just share your email address in the chat, and you can direct any questions that you have on this area to Ms. Terrell directly, and she'll do her best to respond as quickly as possible.
I think I have a question.
All right, so Sheridan, you want to proceed?
Hello?
Good afternoon.
Sheridan?
Yes,
Hello?
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. On the note of what Ms. Terrell was talking about in terms of being a citizen of a CARICOM country, but having a US passport, given I am to travel on my CARICOM passport and I want to come back home, but the route to come back home stops in the US, so I want to leave Jamaica on my US passport, but I'll return back into Jamaica with the passport I came into Jamaica. I know it's a bit complicated, but how would that work?
Well, it won't be a problem for UWI, and I don't think it should be a problem to our local immigration office. You would have to ensure that whichever passport you're going to travel on, that the immigrations for the different places you'll be going, it would be acceptable. But for Jamaica, you came in on one passport, you're leaving on another. I will double check that with our immigration office, but I don't think it should be a problem. I've just posted my email address. So I ask that you just send me an email with that question so that I can just verify with our local immigration office.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank
And
you.
it may have come up before, but it's important for students to note that once you've arrived and you've received your London Until stamp, you'll need to acquire your extension of stay before you leave the country again. So if it is that you have received the stamp, not gotten the extension of stay, and then try to re-enter the country, that will cause an issue. So you need to be mindful of that. So if it is that you plan to head home before getting the extension of stay, that could pose a challenge, just to be mindful. All right, so Ruthann, last question.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I am one of those persons. I carry dual citizenship. I have a valid Jamaican passport and a valid Vincentian passport. Now, I have booked a one-way ticket and I'll be traveling on the Jamaican passport. Do I still need to do a return ticket?
No.
Just making sure I'm triple sure.
Provided that you're traveling on your Jamaican passport, no.
Okay, wonderful.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so of course, we're looking at
Mohammed has a question,
Yes.
Mr. Don.
Pardon me?
Yes.
Mohammed.
Yes,
Right.
my question is, I think it's very simple here. I only have 2 routes to get a transit visa, and that is Brazil and that of United States.
Right. So
Hello?
as we indicated, I mean, your case is a bit complex, Mohammed.
I'm not gonna be
So
done
we're
this
definitely gonna
afternoon.
have to discuss
not
with
gonna be
you
done.
in a separate session,
Okay.
potential approaches that would potentially work based on our prior
Okay.
experience. But
Okay.
unfortunately, due to time constraints here, we won't be able to go deep into that question. And again, if there are any pending questions on the matter of immigration, we just kindly ask you to email Ms. Terrell directly, and she will share some correspondence with you in that regard. All right. So
I
we're
see
gonna
one
have
last question, Mr. Don.
Yeah.
Can you get an extension of stay on 2 passports? No, you'll be given the extension of stay on the passport that you enter Jamaica on.
Right, indeed. All right. All right. So thank you, Ms. Terrell. Tony, yes, we have a few minutes. So you want to just jump into your segment just to share a little bit of guidance with the students in terms of their preparations to come to Jamaica? Tony?
Okay, Mr. Dunn, thank you. All right, so by now everyone should be excited about visiting Jamaica and to embark on this new journey. Today I'll be sharing some quick tips on how to prepare for travel and also how to navigate our Jamaican airport. So the first thing you would have done is to research your destination, just to get an idea of where you're going and what you're getting into. So that should be one of the first things that you do. Next, your travel documents, ensuring that all your necessary documents are in order. Students must have a valid passport with an expiration date that extends beyond their intended stay. Depending on the country you're coming from, a visa may be required. Health preparations. This is essential for a safe and healthy stay abroad. Students should check for required vaccinations well in advance of their departure. Bring enough prescription medications to last the duration of the stay, or copies of prescriptions in case you need refills. Essentials for packing. Packing is a strategic component to this. Students should pack the appropriate clothing for the local climate. Currently, it is really hot, so we can't stress enough that you pack appropriately. Also, there'll be financial preparations. Financial readiness ensures that the student can manage their expenses while abroad. Creating a budget is essential. Access to funds should be arranged through either credit or debit cards that work internationally, and having some local currency on hand for immediate expenses upon arrival is also very beneficial. It is also advisable to have an emergency fund and understand the local banking options for convenience and security. Okay, so navigating an airport in a foreign country can be a daunting experience, especially for those who are first-time travelers. Jamaica, with its bustling airport and vibrant culture, offers a unique experience that can be both exciting and challenging. Whether you're arriving at the Norman Manley International Airport in Kingston or the Sangster International Airport in Montego Bay, these tips will help you navigate our Jamaican airport smoothly and efficiently. So you've been preparing all this time and the day is finally here. You are now at the airport. First thing, your pre-arrival preparation. Ensure that you have all the necessary documents. We can't stress this enough. So that would be your passport, visa if required, any type of insurance. Keep these documents easily accessible. Very important that you complete your online passenger declaration form. This is the C5 form. Ms. Terrell would have made mention of this. It is best to have this completed online before departure, as it prevents delays at the airport and save time upon your arrival here. Arrival and immigration. Please do follow the signage. Upon disembarking, follow the signs for immigration and customs. Signs are typically in English. Joining the correct lines. There are usually separate lines for residents and visitors. Ensure you join the correct. Ensure you join the correct queue. There are usually custom officers on the floor to guide arriving passengers if you're having any challenges. Have your documents ready and in hand. Keep your passports and any other required documents ready for inspection. Be prepared to answer questions about your stay in Jamaica, and we do recommend that you have your acceptance letter on hand, that in case you need that. Baggage claim. Check monitors and signs to find your baggage carousel. Identifying your luggage, make sure your luggage is easily identifiable with a unique tag or ribbon. This helps to avoid confusion and speeds up the process. Customs. If you have any items to declare, there are certain lines that you join for that. If you have nothing to declare, I think it's called the red channel for things to declare and the green channel for persons who have nothing to declare. Accurately declare your goods if you're bringing anything into the country to avoid any fines and confusion. Transport and exiting the airport. Arrange your transportation in advance. For students that have been assigned on-campus housing, you're asked to forward your arriving information as soon as it is finalized so that arrangements can be made for you to be met at the airport. Please note that transportation is provided for first-year regional and international students, and the bus is only licensed to carry UWI students. So for persons who are bringing family members, you will unfortunately have to make other arrangements for them. Students would be required to register online through a link so that the lodgings office will be able to gather your information and set up the correct and suitable arrangements for you to be picked up at the airport. Pickup for the Norman Manley International Airport in Kingston will be done Monday to Friday during the period of 8:30 a.m. Jamaican time to 4:30 p.m. local Jamaican time from August 16th to September the 1st. Be sure to confirm your pickup time with the lodgings office. And just to note that this service is at no additional cost to the student. Students arriving on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and students residing off campus will need to make your own arrangements for transportation from the airport, as well as those students who will be coming in from the Donald Sangster International Airport in Montego Bay. We strongly encourage you to use the services of the Jamaican Union of Travelers Association. We call that JUTA. It is located inside of the airport, or we do have a specific contact that we can share with you for you to make those arrangements. This is a company that is safe and we work closely with them, so they will take very good care of you. I should note though that this service will come at a cost, and it may vary based on the number of people or persons in the group. For those that will be using a car rental, once you clear customs, you can just follow the signs to the car rental counter and ensure that you have your reservations, your driver's license. Currency exchange. While some places in Jamaica accept credit cards and international debit cards, it's useful to have some Jamaican dollars for smaller transactions. Currency exchange counters are available in the arrival area. So there are signs there. If you're not able to locate it, you can always ask questions. However, these places may close at a certain time, so it depends on what time your flight comes in. You'll be able to access it. Safety and awareness. Always be vigilant. Keep your eyes on your belongings at all times. Be cautious of strangers offering unsolicited help. Familiarize yourself with the airport, know emergency exits and security procedures. There are some restaurants, cafes, and duty-free shops located within our airports. In terms of language and communication, English, as you all should know, is our official language. So communication should be straightforward for those who speak English. If you're unsure about where to go or anything at all, don't hesitate to ask the airport staff for assistance. So by following these tips, you can navigate the Jamaican airport with confidence and ease, setting the stage for a smooth transition and an enjoyable stay in Jamaica. So once you arrive on hall from the airport, it is advised that you check in with the hall office. They will guide you through the process to get situated if you have not received prior instructions. All right, Mr. Dunn.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tony. Very, very comprehensive and some really key advice for students. So I hope everyone was taking note. We'll perhaps try to share the information with you so you can have it to take away with. And of course, as was mentioned, recording of this session will also be shared with you so you can reference it again. So thank you again, Tony. Really valuable information. Well done. And thank you, Ms. Terrell, again for your presentation. Right, so we have a final segment, and for that segment, we invite Linda Samba just to share a little bit about her experience. Unfortunately, we have to keep this segment pretty short given the time, but Linda, over to you.
Yes. All right, so good afternoon again, everyone. To prepare your trip to Jamaica, it's important to really take care about the visa. So as Ms. Terrell said before, you really need to watch the date when the immigration officer at the airport, when you will arrive, the date, you need to see this date and go to the immigration office in Kingston before this date, because yeah, if you come just one day after, you will pay the fee. So nobody wants to pay this fee. So yeah, it's really important. Then about the campus life, everything is really close. Everything is on the campus. We have Hailu Food, which is a supermarket. On campus, we have a lot of groceries we can do our groceries on our halls too, because we have a lot of other little markets there, the commissaries. Also about yeah, as Tonyan said, also Juta Tours is a really good company. I took this when I arrived in Jamaica, and I arrived pretty late. So the driver was on time. He was really kind. So really good. About the whole life is really good. There are a lot of activities. I really enjoy being on a hall. Um, you can find a lot of things to do when you are on a hall. So yeah, and after about, oh yeah, walking on campus late during the night, you have always to tell someone that you are going somewhere, and it's better to walk with someone else, not walking alone around the campus, or even in Jamaica overall. Just tell someone you are going out, and go out with someone else is better. And Jamaica is a wonderful country. We have the chance at the University of the West Indies to have classes with wonderful teachers, wonderful classes, wonderful people around the university. So I'm sure you will enjoy your time there.
All right. Thank you so much, Linda. That was really
You're welcome.
succinct and well put. And thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I see a few questions in the chat regarding things like payments and conversion rates and so on. We actually do have a session, the next session that we'll be having on Friday, July 26th. We'll look at things like budgeting, banking, your financial obligations, your commitment fees. All of those things will be discussed during that session. So you can look out for the link on that session, and please be sure to join. And that's where you'll be able to ask questions related to that topic. So essentially this brings us to the end of our webinar. We thank you again for joining us. As was mentioned before, a recording of this session will be placed on our YouTube channel, and it will also be shared with you via email. And of course, like to thank our special guests, Athol Hamilton and Linda Samba, for their excellent contributions and for taking the time to present to us. I'd also like to thank Herman Terrell, Tony Ann Reed, and Vikisha Allen from the International Office for all of their hard work and support. Last and certainly not least, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today for this webinar, and of course for choosing the University of the West Indies. We definitely look forward to meeting you on Tuesday, August 20 for the regional and international student orientation session. We have a registration form that we're asking you to be sure that you fill out. I'll just add it to the chat right now. So if you haven't already filled out that form, please do so. Now, after exiting this session, we also have just a little post-webinar survey that we'll ask you to fill out, just to let us know, how you enjoyed this session and if there's anything else that we can do to better serve you. So thank you again for attending. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you for future webinar sessions. Take care, everyone.